Good afternoon and welcome to the United Nations ACG Symposium Exploring the Diversity of Athens. My name is Claudia Karidis and I'm Vice President of Public Affairs. On behalf of my colleagues at the American College of Greece, I would like to say that we're very excited to be able to host this symposium amid the second wave of the pandemic and a second lockdown. And even though we are deprived of the opportunity to have a live audience here on campus, and of course, we miss all our speakers. For those of you who are not familiar with our institution, the American College of Greece is an independent, non-sectarian, non-profit, co-educational institution, the oldest and largest US-accredited college or university in Europe that has been offering transformative education to thousands of students since 1875, 145 years ago. ACG recognizes the environmental, economic, and social benefits of resource efficiency and has committed to both inspire and empower its students, the leaders of tomorrow, as we like to call them, but also its faculty, staff, parents, and alumni to develop a sustainability culture through a global perspective. How did today's symposium come about? Well, this semester, following a highly competitive process, 11 Deree students were selected to be part of the United Nations Millennium Fellowship Program class of 2020. Over 15,000 applicants from over 1,400 campuses across 135 nations applied, and ACG is part of the 80 campuses in 20 countries worldwide, meaning in the 6% globally that have been selected. As you will also hear from the UN representative that will be with us in a while, this is the first time Greece is represented in this program since its launch in 2013, and I would like to congratulate our students for their success. So this three-day symposium is organized by the Deree Millennium Fellows as part of a group project they have to deliver in collaboration with the Office of Public Affairs and the Deree Sociology Department. The symposium aims at enhancing awareness about the UN SDGs and at inspiring and enhancing student participation in future relevant activities. Most importantly, we would like to say that this event is in line with all the other initiatives and activities that ACG is systematically engaging with in the context of its commitment to be the leading academic institution in Greece to address the SDGs and to implementing an ever-increasing number of sustainability best practices. In fact, the American College of Greece is the only academic institution in Europe to have achieved a gold stars rating in recognition of its best practices in 5 categories. And that is academics, operations, engagement, planning and administration, and innovation and leadership. Additionally, through its membership in the UN Global Compact, the UN Academic Impact, and the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, the American College of Greece proves in action that it will always operate in support of SDGs, and most importantly, in support of SDG 4, that is quality education. The symposium will deal with at least 4 separate goals. Those are SDG 10, reduced inequalities, SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, and SDG 12, sustainable consumption and production. With this opportunity, we are welcoming NGO representatives, local authority officials, and members of the academia who will engage in panel presentations and hopefully in interactive discussions with the audience. We hope to reach out to as many students as possible, as well as faculty, representatives of other NGOs and public authorities and professionals, anybody who's interested in the advancement of SDGs in our country. The symposium is held under the auspices of the United Nations Academic Impact, the Millennium Campus Network, and the Millennium Fellowship Program, and we want to thank them all for the overall experience offered to our students. I would like to thank all the Deree students and the student societies involved in the organization of this symposium for their contribution in putting this program together, and especially, of course, the Deree Millennium Fellows and their advisor, Rania Sariotakis, ACG Sustainability Manager, our speakers, as well as Dr. Zahu, Dr. Apostolaki, and Dr. Marouli, the Deree faculty members who will moderate our panels, and of course our events team for their meticulous work. So thank you all for joining us today. Stay well, stay tuned, stay with us for the 3 days, 2:30 to 5 p.m., Wednesday to Friday. And once again, we encourage you to engage actively in the discussions that will follow. And now, I'm happy to give the floor to our Deree Millennium Fellows to present themselves through a short video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dionysios Zavaras, and I am excited to welcome you all to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Symposium, Exploring the Diversity of Athens. Apart from being a psychology and honor student at the American College of Greece, I'm also the co-campus director of ACG for the Millennium Fellowship Program under the auspices of United Nations Academic Impact and Millennium Campus Network. My cohort and I were chosen as the first Greek Millennium Fellowship cohort, which is an honor indeed, and presents us with an unparalleled opportunity via our symposium initiative to further develop our leadership skills, connect with fellow leaders across the world, and join them to help pave the way for the realization of the UN SDGs. For this symposium, we strive to apply a discover, think, talk, do formula. Together with our esteemed guests, we will discover, be informed, and think about the UN SDGs, host wonderful discussions between distinguished policymakers, academics, and professionals from civil society organizations and the business sector, and propose solutions that aim towards the realization of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals on an individual and a societal level. On behalf of the ACG Millennium Fellows, I want to thank ACG for their support, my cohort for all the hard work they have done, and the Millennium Campus Network team for all their guidance. Lastly, I also want to thank the Global Liberal Arts Alliance and the Athens Democracy Forum, as their work and my engagement in their initiatives has served as inspiration for this endeavor. Thank you.
Hello, from Athens, from Greece. My name is Hassan Oxus. I'm studying sociology at the American College of Greece. I'm also co-campus director at the Millennium Fellowship 2020. The reason why I joined to this program is my imagination. I imagined how the world would be if United Nations Sustainable Development Goals accomplished by 2030. Can you imagine?
My name is Barbara Margarita Radman, and I'm a fourth-year senior at Deree. I study international business with a minor in sociology. I joined the Millennium Fellowship because I wanted to make a difference in the world, and I also wanted to learn how to work with students from all over the world. Additionally, for my future career plans, I'd like to work in the sector of corporate social responsibility. And I know that the UN SDG goals are very vital for corporate social responsibility in businesses. Finally, for the Millennium Fellowship Symposium that we have planned for you, I mainly worked on SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production.
Hi, my name is Maria Hadjimikhail. I am 22 years old and I'm a senior at Deree. I am studying sociology as a major, and as a minor I have the international relations. So the reason I chose to participate in this program is mostly because I thought at the beginning that it would be something like a model United Nations thing, a conference, which I used to love since I was junior high. But then I realized that it's way much more than that. It was actually very, very educative for me that I got to know all those people, got to share my ideas and learn about theirs, and actually interact with all these youth from all over the world in order to find out more and I engage in new goals that will also help make the world a better place.
Hello, my name is Marina Fedoropoulou. I am 23 years old and I'm a Millennium Fellow class of 2020. I joined the Millennium Fellowship Program because I thought it was a great opportunity to expand my knowledge regarding sustainability, be more educated about the Sustainable Development Goals, and especially goal number 12, responsible production and consumption, and meet new people who share the same interests and passions as I do.
I am Sevilla Yorgatza. My major is in International and European Studies, and I'm taking a minor in Environmental Management. I am very honored to be a part of the Millennium Fellowship and be a member of the Greek cohort. This is a unique opportunity for us to collectively combine our efforts and contribute towards the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, with the creation of this global network, we can approach the notion of global citizenship through different perspectives and address current global challenges in an inclusive and successful way. Going into our project, I was specifically interested in SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, and how we can implement sustainable practices in order to promote social change.
Hello everyone, my name is Lili Katrikalinu and I'm currently studying graphic design. I'm also part of the International Honors Program of our college. One of the reasons why I took part in the fellowship was because it is an amazing initiative to collaborate and learn from young people around the globe. Further, I wanted to be a part of this group in order to educate and inform the public regarding the SDGs. We all have the same goal and I believe together we will successfully complete it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Pieri and I'm a junior at the American College of Greece, studying international relations and psychology. I joined the Millennium Fellows because my main dream in life, however ambitious it may seem, is to help make the world a better place. Starting with my own campus. I have loved working with my amazing peers to create something wonderful, and I really hope that it will inspire others to take initiative too.
Hello everyone. My name is Nicole Luzzi, and I'm an international honors student studying human resource management at Deree. The reason why I wanted to join the Millennium Fellowship Program was first of all because I wanted to educate myself more on the 17 SDGs. Also, it's really important for me being part of this project because I want to contribute in the world as much as I can. Regarding why I want to be part of this group, I believe that you can accomplish things when you are a part of a team, because one can impact another to create a better outcome. So if we want to see change in this world, we need to act as one to achieve that.
My name is Eva Dallas. I'm 25 years old and I'm a sociology major. In 2018, I had the privilege of representing Deree at the Athens Democracy Forum, where I met and collaborated with students from all over the world in promoting the SDGs. This experience is the reason why I decided to join this group, because I needed to surround myself with people who are galvanized and eager in fostering change, even amidst a global pandemic when everything is more chaotic than ever before. As Millennium Fellows, we have been given the opportunity to meet students, professionals, and experts from across the globe who are driven in figuring out actionable solutions so as to promote social and environmental sustainability. Today, by exploring the city of Athens, all of us will have the chance to do exactly that together.
Thank you, Deree Millennium Fellows, and once again, congratulations for all your achievements and your success. So we would like to now share a short, enthusiastic message sent by Kenny Adebiyi, Program Coordinator for the Millennium Campus Network, a Millennium Campus Network alumnus himself and a great supporter, passionate supporter of sustainable development. Let's see the video, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Adebiyi. I am the Program Coordinator for the Millennium Campus Network, where I coordinate the Millennium Fellowship. The United Nations Academic Impact and Millennium Campus Network launched the Millennium Fellowship to convene, challenge, and celebrate global leaders advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We believe that with inclusion, humility, and empathy, that we can raise global leaders to advance the UN goals and ultimately contribute to a world where everyone on the planet will live in peace and shared prosperity. For the class of 2020, we had over 15,000 applicants across different campuses in the world, and we are glad to have selected over 1,400 student leaders in 20 countries across 80 campuses. I am glad to see that the American College of Greece, Deree, is part of the cohort to be selected to lead the fellowship for this year. Importantly to mention is that the American College of Greece is the first campus in Greece to be selected for this Millennium Fellowship Program. I am particularly excited about the leadership shown by Dionysius and Azan to lead their cohorts toward completing a fantastic session and also implementing a project that is needed at this crucial time. This symposium comes in handy to address basic issues towards advancing the SDGs, to raise necessary advocacy that are needed towards advancing the UN goals. And I believe that the next 3 days are promising to be enlightening, and also we bring on board new partnership, new ideas, and new methodologies to advance the UN goals. At MCN, we are proud of this initiative and also appreciate our partners that are making this cause possible. Thank you so much for your commitment, for your leadership. Together, we are leaving no one behind.
And now I would like to give the floor to 2 Deree Millennium Fellows, Barbara Ratman, International Business Major, Sociology Minor, and Maria Hadjimichali, Sociology Major, International Relations Minor, both in their last year at Deree. There are 2 out of the 4 students that prepared a 6-minute video titled Athens Through the Eyes of ACG Students. Please welcome Barbara and Myra, who join us live.
Hello, and welcome to our UN SDGs Symposium, Exploring the Diversity of Athens. It is a pleasure to be introducing one of the very important aspects of our event and something that we as Deree Millennium Fellows worked on. My name is Barbara Margarita Radman, and I'm a senior at Deree majoring in international business. And with my colleague, Maria Hadjimichali, we will be discussing our video project called Athens Through the Eyes of ACG Students. Within this video, you can see various graffiti and wall murals confronting climates of inequality and diversity. Additionally, the general landscape and views of Athens, a city with many dimensions to it. All these videos and pictures were taken by us, the Deree Millennium Fellows, who were introduced previously. We took videos and pictures of the areas we most visit and live next to. This way, an image of our daily Athens can be seen. We shot this video because we wanted to introduce the Athens that will be presented in its entirety under the panels that will follow in this symposium. We did not want to present a touristic Athens, but the daily, often unnoticed Athens. The most important aspect of this video is the stark contrast it shows between historical ancient ruins and the urban environment surrounding them. Riddled with its monumental historic architectural pieces and ancient ruins, Athens seems to grow around them. Nothing seems to be forgotten in the city. Buildings from time past can be found, as well as state-of-the-art modern architecture. Moreover, the new minimalist glass buildings shown, such as the Stavros Niarchos Foundation building and the Acropolis Archaeological Museum, are compared to the scene of urban decay in some sections of Athens. These are contrasts of socioeconomic nature. The urban section is depicting the clash in society with murals dedicated to the hungry, to minorities, to the severe financial recession, and used as a form of artistic expression. These murals are snapshots into the souls of the Athenian people. We often walk by them, but once we see them, the feelings of solidarity elicited cannot be erased. Urban decay can be seen with rundown neoclassical buildings and the graffiti which create vibrant colors on their walls. Yet another collision of old and new. Our Athens may be less shiny than the brochures, but it is real. It remains real because Athens is a city that represents its population. If its citizens are unsatisfied, and if there are socioeconomic pressures, the walls of the city itself reflect it. Furthermore, Athens is a city that is attempting to bring the new in while maintaining the authenticity of the old. This can be seen through the vintage markets, traditional shops, and the overall style of the city. In discussing the diversity of Athens within the context of our symposium, it is important to keep in mind these images of Athens, because this is the precise context in which everything we talk about is set. Now my teammate Mayra will be delving deeper into the meaning of the video.
Thank you, Barbara. Hello, my name is Maria Hadjimichali, and I'm a senior at Deree, majoring in sociology and minoring in international relations. Well, today it is my pleasure to guide you through the city of Athens as we know, love, hate, and experience it every day. As my fellow Barbara previously mentioned, these photos have been taken from us, the Deree Millennium Fellowships, in 2020 in order to show you and help you view through our own eyes the city for which we will be discussing throughout in this symposium. During this video, you will be able to see some parts of Athens in which we find ourselves daily. We began by wanting to show you our city. In this trip to imprint our city, we saw again things we had forgotten they existed, walked in paths that gave us the sense that our ancestors still live in Athens, even though they lived 3,000 years ago when the Acropolis and the Parthenon were built. But well, that is not very important because this Athens is pretty much an Athens all of you know. We're about to show you some corners and streets that you don't know, that you won't see unless you really look for. Corners that still smell like the perfume of Anatoly, that the Greeks that came from Asia Minor after the Smyrna catastrophe brought with them when they arrived in Athens. You will see where the pulse of new people in the city beats in the city of 5 million. The parts of the city you think you experience in a movie. We explored corners of Athens where graffiti is discovered, that you would only think you would see in Sao Paulo and New York. Messages strong and loud that unite. Athens is a crossroads, a center that unites, travels, leaves a footprint you cannot forget in your heart. Athens is a city that leaves you breathless when you see the sea from the port. It's a bright city with thousands of lights, a city where hundreds of homeless people live, a city that reminds you of another time, a post-war city with financial prosperity, with neoclassical buildings which are left neglected and empty. The same buildings that now are used by new artists, a generation that gives its color and stamps through their art in the city of diversities. Athens is all that and so much more. The corners of the refugees, the ancient Greek, the youth, the next people who will live in the city. You will experience every aspect of it just by taking a simple walk in the streets. All these diverse pictures we collected and will be presented to you are nothing more than a puzzle of a city, very much alive, in which old civilization and modern attitudes coexist. Different religions, various colors and perfumes are combined. A city in which you can literally see everything. Even though in many cases all these contradict, they end up creating a homogeneous absolute, which is nothing more than a city full of contrast and diversities. It's a diversity. Now we will see the video.
Thank you, Barbara and Maria, for an excellent presentation. You have indeed depicted lots of different images of the city of Athens. And this video, I believe, sets the tone for the whole symposium and the discussions that will follow. And indeed, it sets the tone for the next presentation. It is a pleasure now to introduce the two International Honors Program students that will present the Strolling Incognito session. Please welcome Stavrogiannis Christos in his third year and Skartsilakis Emmanuel in his fourth year at Deree, both IT majors, who join us live. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this presentation of our Athens. Our project is titled Athens Walkabouts, and it was created for the international program's course, Strolling Incognito into the Athens, the Art of City Walkabouts. It is a collection of photos, texts, PowerPoints, and other medias, all incorporated in a weblog that we, as the class, designed. Each one of us added and presented their own ideas as to how we experienced Athens as flaneurs, that is, as subtle and casual observers of the city landscape. We engage in walkabouts in the city of Athens as a form of research method. We observe and critically analyzed and interpreted the city. We learn to read the text of the city and to write about it based on our personal experiences and understanding. Our observations helped us appreciate the city and its diverse landscape. As we discovered, Athens is a city that embraces differences but does not try to level or hide them. This is due to several reasons. First of all, Athens has a unique and distinct geographical position as it exists in between three different continents. As such, it was and still is a meeting point where civilizations met and interact, resulting in a distinct cultural identity. An identity that translates to an amalgamation of different cultures and religions all gathered in the center of Athens. One more reason is that Athens has a rich history, and it's a place of great historical importance due to the fact that it is considered the birthplace of democracy, but also that it's a place closely related to education and knowledge. Athens has been in the center of major political changes and socioeconomic alterations, even in recent years. And due to this profound heritage, Athens is a place where the past and the present now coexist. The fact that Athens resides at the same time in its past and in its present contribute in forming vast contrasts and differences in the city landscape. We saw and experienced in our course some of these contrasts. And as an example, we saw contrasts in living condition. We found homeless people lying near the street, crowded with pedestrians, shops and cafes, to different groups of people with evidently completely different living circumstances and conditions. We also experienced and saw differences in architecture. In a city where beautiful and historically significant structures reside, we also saw abandoned and destroyed or semi-destroyed buildings, which is something that gave us a totally different understanding of the city of Athens and its center. I believe that Athens is a culturally all-inclusive place that seeks to follow with the times and the advanced metropolis and big cities of Europe, but also it's proud of its ancient and most recent history and its heritage. And as such, I think that Athens is a city that has distinct and unique characteristics. Thank you very much. That was all from me. Now Manolis will continue with the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Christos. Please let me guide you through the rest of our experience. So, if you happen to visit Athens, you cannot miss these three wonderful buildings. They are called the Athenian Trilogy. On the upper right, you see the Academy of Athens. On the lower left, you see the University of Athens. On the lower right, you see the National Library of Athens. They are located at the city center of Athens, and they were built in the 19th century. They were designed by the Hansen brothers, and they were completed with the help of Ernest Schiller. And thankfully, they are very well preserved up till now. Someone might think that the city center of Athens would have similar buildings scattered. However, the truth is a bit different. If you go a bit further, you get to see images like that. This is called the Ammonia Square. This is used to be full of life during the 60s and the 70s and even the 80s. However, gradually started to decay. So people started living, so you could see abandoned houses and manors and shops. And all you see now is graffitis. But thankfully, the state, the last 5 years, has begun reshaping and redeveloping this area. Also, the city of Athens is full of derelict buildings like that, and unfortunately, their owners of the state have done nothing to renovate them or demolish them because they are source of pollution, not to mention they are very dangerous. We have many reports of walls falling down and balconies, and people have gotten injured, and it's a matter that must be taken care of. Furthermore, we have these wonderful neoclassical manors, which are unfortunately abandoned. And I did a little research with a friend of mine who is a lawyer, and we discovered that they have a high inheritance tax, so the heirs cannot afford it. So they pass these manors to the state, and unfortunately, the state has not taken into advantage that is into using them. I mean, imagine having these wonderful manors operating public services. It would be nice to see these buildings come back to life, and also the prestige of the city would be higher. Vandalism, of course, could not be excluded from Greece, and especially Athens. What you see here is just the tip of the iceberg. It's bad that the rioters vandalized and disfigured the statues and the busts, and especially for the bottom two pictures. It was at the base of the bust of Athena, and on the one day it was restored, it was built, and the next day some rioters threw it down. I mean, they disrespect the history. So if you wander around Athens, you can spot in every corner of Athens hidden history and relics of the previous eras, dating back to the classical antiquity of Greece, to the Turkish rule, to our religion, and remnants of the two world wars. So city of Athens so through these images, you can understand that the city of Athens is a city of contrasts and full of diversities. Thank you for your attention. We hope that you enjoyed it. We would also like to thank Deree for giving us the opportunity of sharing our experience. And of course, we would like to thank our professor, Dr. Giannakopoulou, for this wonderful course. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christos and Manolis, for your work. And now, without further ado, I would like us to welcome our first panel, and its moderator, Dr. Chrysssa Zachou, head of the Deree Sociology Department. Dr. Zachou, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I would also like to welcome you to the first day of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Symposium. And I'm happy to introduce you to the four speakers of the first panel, the topic of which is exploring diversity, exploring inequalities. The first speaker is Thomas Maloutas, Emeritus Professor of the Department of Geography, Harokopion University, former Director of the National Center of Social Research, EKE. His work focuses on the changing social structures in metropolitan areas in the era of capitalist globalization, and on issues of segregation and gentrification relating to housing and broader welfare regimes. His research primarily focuses on South European urban context, and especially the city of Athens. Professor Maloutas, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you, first of all, for this invitation to this important event. And my talk will be about urban inequalities with a special focus, of course, on Athens. Sustainability, resilience, smart cities are some of the terms linked to political agendas that increasingly seek less inequalities and a more even distribution of social groups within our increasingly diverse cities. However, today's cities are far from acceptable equity standards, even when we are not talking about extremely unequal cities like Hong Kong or Sao Paulo. In fact, in our cities, there is a vicious circle of mutually reinforcing mechanisms that reproduce social inequalities. Unequal education trajectories, for instance, lead to unequal positions in the labor market, and unequal positions in the labor market provide access to unequal education opportunities for the next generation. Unequal positions in the labor market provide unequal income and therefore unequal access to better or worse residential areas. And better or worse residential areas provide access to better or worse quality of schooling, and so on. Urban segregation is part of this vicious circle which breeds inequality. The separation of social and racial groups comes a long way and has sometimes undertaken extreme force, like in US cities until the mid-1960s when racial segregation was abolished, or in South African cities under the apartheid regime. Segregation in terms of class has always been more nuanced than racial segregation. However, differences in the class composition of urban neighborhoods and in the spatial distribution of poverty and deprivation continue to be very clear, even in cities like London that you see on this slide, where welfare policies and public housing policies have been developed for many decades. Athens that you see now, unfortunately my slide processes autonomous from me and I have to hold it back. Athens is not a highly segregated city. Looking at the urban tissue from a hill in the city center, Lycabettus Hill, you don't get the impression of visible social borders. The different parts of the city look quite similar from a distance. You need to look more in detail to realize social differences. In the two maps on your screen, which are on the same scale, although one might think that they are not, you have the layout of a bourgeois suburb on the right, designed on the model of glorious American suburbs, and on the left, the layout of a working class neighborhood with a refugee history developed in a haphazard way since the interwar period. The very unequal size of city blocks that you can see on the two maps corresponds to very unequal lots and very unequal houses, and to other amenities like green spaces in the first case and lack of green spaces, or quality schools in the first case and lack of quality schools in the second, which contribute to further diversify the two places' social identities. Segregation is illustrated in a more comprehensive way if we map the unequal spatial distribution of important social categories. Immigrants from developing countries, for instance, are mainly concentrated, as you can see on this map, in the densely built areas of the city center, while they are relatively absent in the suburbs, both those suburbs of affluent categories and those of the working class. Class segregation has a different shape from ethnic segregation in the city of Athens and in many other cities. In this sequence of maps, I'm using the education level as a marker of social rank, and we see that the residential areas where different educational groups are overrepresented move from the west to the east, as the education level of the residents moves from bottom to top. Let me give you another tour of this. Up to elementary education on the west. Upper secondary, a more even distribution, and then bachelor on the east and PhD or equivalent in the east and in the bourgeois strongholds of the city. A similar movement from west to east is observed when we use occupational categories instead of educational levels as social markers. Here you see that high managers and medical doctors, for instance, are concentrated in the east. Then primary school teachers and secondary school teachers and general office employees are more evenly distributed in the city's space. Then salespersons, skilled builders or professional drivers are concentrated in the western part, and cleaners finally are gathered in the city center, where you have also the concentration of migrant groups, because to some extent cleaners are usually also migrants. Athens is not only segregated horizontally, that is, not only among its neighborhoods. There are also important differences among floors in the apartment blocks of the densely built areas in and around the city center especially. In these apartment blocks, wealthy households usually occupy as homeowners large, sunny, and rather quiet apartments on the top floors, often with balconies and some view, while poor households, often migrants, are relegated to renting small, dark, and noisy apartments on ground floors and basements. Overall, living in a nice suburb or in a spacious upper floor apartment compared to living in a deprived neighborhood or a small apartment in a basement makes a difference. Chances of social mobility are very unequal among such cases. These unequal chances are mainly due to the different personal and family characteristics of those who live in such different residential environments. But space also contributes to enhancing these inequalities. In a recent study of the relation between dropping out of school and living at different floor levels in the city vertically segregated areas, we are able to confirm that higher rates of dropping out were mainly connected to personal and family characteristics, but living in disadvantaged small apartments in ground floors and basements had also a significant impact on negative educational outcomes. There are obviously many more things to say about the social geography of Athens, which could not be contained in 10 minutes. And Athens being a very particular city, but every city on the planet is very particular. The levels and forms of inequality and segregation may be different across cities, but what they all have in common is that inequalities persist everywhere, even if they are more pronounced in some cities and less in some others. My conclusion to this brief presentation is that cities are very complex environments where the simultaneous operation of the labor market, the housing market, and the education market create a vicious circle, as I said in the beginning, which continuously breeds increasing inequality. Therefore, if the goal to reduce inequality for a sustainable future is accepted, policies to regulate these markets and their interaction are immediately needed. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Maloutas, for helping us see the invisible social borders of Athens and for revealing to us the patterns of ethnic and class segregation. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Alexia Evert. Mrs. Evert is the Vice Mayor of Social Solidarity of the Municipality of Athens. Hello, Mrs. Evert. Mrs. Evert has also served, besides her position in the municipality, as the President of the Children and Adolescent Libraries of Greece, and served at the General Secretariat of Inequality of the Ministry of Interior, Public Administration and Decentralization, and the Research Center for Gender Equality, KETHI. In addition, she has worked pro bono in the Municipality of Athens, the Ministry of the Presidency and the New Democracy Party in the fields of communication, planning, organization, and cultural events, while she still participates in charitable and cultural activities of organizations such as Make-A-Wish, ELEPAP, and the Benaki Museum. Mrs.
Thank you, Mr. Good afternoon. Starting, I would like to congratulate the group of Deree students on their distinction to be part of the class of 2020 Millennium Fellowship Program. I would also like to thank you for your invitation to participate in this event. As Mrs. Zahu just mentioned, I took up my duties as Deputy Mayor of Social Solidarity in the city of Athens in September 2019, after the current mayor, Mr. Kostas Bakoyannis, was elected. And as mentioned in my CV, I had previously served as Deputy Mayor of Social Solidarity as well, from 2006 to 2010 during Mr. Nikitas Kaklamani's term of office. At that time, I held, amongst the vast range of social solidarity responsibilities, the implementation of immigration policy, and allow me to refer to this in order to mention that one of the most important projects we carried out at the time was the creation for the first time in Greece of the Council of Immigrants, with the participation of foreigners of different nationalities residing in Athens. The purpose, of course, of this council was to address and solve problems, the diversity issues of the population, which were just evident at the time, and the many discrimination issues experienced by the immigrants in the city. It was a unique experience, a pioneering effort with fruitful results. That's why I'm referring to that, although it's quite a few years ago. Of course, back then, the social inequalities and the socioeconomic environment was completely different from today's picture. It was the period just before the economic crisis hit Greece in 2010 for 9 consecutive years, with tragic consequences on the living standards of the Greek people. It was a prolonged period of recession that pushed a great part of the population on the brink of poverty and misery. The local government, the regions, and the municipalities, of course, which had already started at that time taking on responsibilities that previously belonged to the central administration, to the government, to the state, was eventually invited to take over more and more responsibilities nationwide, spearheaded by the participation in the provision of the residents, we provided services and programs concerning welfare and solidarity issues, and especially European programs of National Strategic Reference Framework, the NSRF programs. Municipal authorities were urgently addressed to provide for the needs of thousands of fellow citizens which were of Greek nationality and migrants with temporary resident permit that had arrived at the country in the late 60s and in the 90s. The population of migrants in Greece is estimated today, I would like to mention, is estimated to be about 1,200,000 in Greece. And the total number of inhabitants are almost 11 million. That is almost above 10%. Added to that, the continuous flow of refugees arriving to Greece the past 4 years via Turkey increased dramatically all requirements. The municipality of Athens, the largest municipality in the country with about 650,000 citizens, had to adapt to the new reality. Social policies and dealing with inequalities became of utmost importance for the city of Athens, the tip of the spear. It became the tip of the spear. To address those needs, the city of Athens sought at the time, as we do up to date, because I'm talking of the years when the economic crisis began, but also up to date, continues with cooperation with component ministries and economic EU assistance through participation in the NSRF, which I mentioned earlier, to provide services. It also cooperated at the time and still cooperates with non-governmental organizations specialized and experienced in providing services to vulnerable groups, such as medical care, elimination of discriminations and implementation of equality policies in various communities, the elimination of violence, like the domestic violence, reintegration into society, and vast other issues. And finally, the need to cooperate with institutions appeared, like the Onassis and the Niarchos institutions, and also companies of the private sector that within the framework of corporate and social responsibility contributed to the creation of programs in this direction. And just as Greece started to recover from the economic crisis, we were suddenly faced with a world pandemic that hit us and has been violently hitting us since February, not only at economic, but also humanitarian and psychological level. Our orientation and direction is leading us towards various and multiple actions towards planning and implementation of programs for securing primarily the basic needs of residents who are living in conditions of extreme poverty or with very, very low social welfare allowances. These basic needs are food, housing, integration into the labor market, the fight against loneliness, the psychological support of people and all those belonging to vulnerable groups, the medical care, as I mentioned before, the assistance in every possible way of our less fortunate fellow citizens living in the city. During my 10-minute presentation, unfortunately, I do not have the time to refer to the vast, very important and continuously growing areas of social responsibilities and services provided to the citizens, such as, which I will refer briefly to, the municipal nursery, childcare center, which registers more than 4,500 children annually. And of course, priority is given to families of low income and services are provided at no cost. Also, the primary healthcare service is provided via 6 municipal clinics, which have now largely expanded their free medical services in all fields, and also provides lately psychological support to the residents. It's worth noting that since the beginning of 2020, approximately 75,000 appointments were arranged at the 6 municipality clinics. Also, I would like to refer, and I'll do it very briefly, to the open structure of temporary reception of the refugees and asylum seekers and beneficiaries that amounts today to approximately 2,500 guests. They're staying now at the refugee camp in Eleonas, which is about 1 kilometer below Ammonia Square. And also my beloved 25 municipality friendship clubs, which operate daily for elderly retired citizens and provide a variety of programs and leisure for their members. And they also provide psychological help and support, physiotherapy, and many other services. Unfortunately, these friendship clubs are now closed because of the pandemic and the lockdown. So as arranged, I will focus on 3 programs that are implemented to serve 3 different groups: the homeless, substance users, the users of drugs, and last, the program for elderly, lonely, and disabled people, which we have named Help at Home Plus, which is a very, very interesting program. I will start with the Help at Home Plus. It's operated by the Municipality Department for Elderly Citizens of the Directorate of Social Solidarity. It includes 7 sufficient service units, 1 in each of the 7 municipal community districts. And we provide a variety of services at home to lonely, disabled people who cannot take care of themselves and whose income cannot cover basic needs. Each service unit consists of social workers, psychologists, healthcare workers, nurses, a doctor, family assistants, such as cleaning ladies. We provide counseling and psychological support, nursing care, companionship, and requests such as prescription and delivery of requested medication from private pharmacies. We provide purchase and delivery of food to their home from supermarkets and flea markets. We transfer them to the hospital if needed, and we pick up their examination results. We assist to medical services such as respiratory delivery. And we also offer a vast majority of administration services. We gather and submit the necessary documents, whether it has to do with their pension or other documents. I would like to mention that during the lockdown in March, we offered services to over 2,000 individuals that were in need and couldn't assist themselves. During this second lockdown, we are also well prepared to service all in need. We have already started. And at this point, I would like to mention that during the first lockdown, we also delivered food and sanitary items door to door to the homes of 17,000 inhabitants, which including the beneficiaries, 30,000 individuals, including their family members, who are beneficiaries of a European fund named Fund for European Aid to the Most Deprived. Now, concerning the homeless, the City of Athens operates an institution named a Reception and Solidarity Center of the City of Athens. In Greek, it's the initials are Kiada. It's another great contribution of the solidarity and welfare of the City of Athens in an effort to limit the consequences of poverty. The operation of a state-of-art multi-purpose center just below Ammonia for the accommodation of the homeless. The guest house that started operating 6 months ago has a capacity of 400 beds and combines the accommodation of the homeless with health and social care services. Each room of this center is a quadruple with a kitchenette and a bathroom. Caretakers, nurses, doctors, and social workers work there daily, and the 3 meals are offered a day. They also have a washing machine, and it also offers, apart from the homeless that would like that spend their evenings there, that live there, it operates as a daycare center where the homeless can have access to personal hygiene facilities, 1 meal a day, and other services such as assistance in obtaining documents, i.e. for allowances or other. It is estimated, although the estimations differ, but it is estimated by us that there are approximately 900 to 1,000 homeless people in Athens, with half of them being substance users. Groups of street workers of the municipality, in collaboration with specified NGOs, also approach the homeless on the streets and on the streets and their gathering places, in case they do not want to be accommodated in the hostel and prefer to stay on the street. And this is a very common, usual fact. So at this point, I will refer to another transitional accommodation hostel called Ionis, that has been operating also since April 2020 for homeless substance users. It used to be a hotel. It is located also in the center of Athens, and it has a capacity of 80 beds. The guests live in single rooms with their own bathroom. In the case of couples, they live in double rooms with their own bathroom. And it has hosted up to now, within these months since April 2020, 121 homeless people. Today that we're in this discussion, it is hosting 73 people, 62 of them who are Greeks and 11 foreigners, 56 are men and 17 are women. It should be noted that most of the 121 beneficiaries entered detoxification programs, which is a big success for this center. During the operation of the hostel, more than 400 cases have also been referred to other institutional services, mostly to hospital and other health care structures for the provision of medical services. The working force amounts to 30 people, providing security, cleaning, and reception services, while there are also psychologists, social workers, doctors, nurses, and other staff. Within the framework of a signed memorandum of understanding, both the multi-purpose homeless center, which I mentioned earlier, and the Ionis Center for the substance user homeless, cooperate with non-profit companies and NGOs such as the Church of Greece, Decay, the Greek Council for Refugees, and others. Kiada, apart from operating the multi-purpose center for the homeless, operates with the NGO Apostoli, which is an NGO of the Greek Orthodox Church of the Archiepiscopi, and they provide all year long an open soup kitchen for at least 1,500 meals daily, without any discrimination, without asking for supporting documents. I know I'm running out of time, and I must leave out the policies for the municipalities supervises for abused women, victims of domestic violence, a very successful housing and work program that we operate for individuals and families with no income, and also a center, we call it a job center, which we operate in order to help unemployed citizens find work. We also cooperate with other NGOs like the LGBT community and many others, which I don't have time to mention at this point. So it is needless to say, as you understand, that within the borders of the municipality of Athens, where diversity is so obvious and vast, we come across daily with a continuously increasing need to protect different groups of people. And it is the priority of the city of Athens to address these needs, the needs of the most vulnerable groups. I would suggest to those who are further interested to visit our site. It's www.cityofathens.gr, and they can search for additional information. I would like to thank you very much for listening to me and for the invitation, and I'm wishing you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Evert, for presenting several of the welfare and solidarity programs of the municipality as a response to the needs, the new needs of the population of Athens and all the new inequalities intensified by the multiple recent crises. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dr. Lili Katrikalinu. She's a sociologist with a specialization on issues of migration and urban sociology. Since 2011, she is the managing director of EACEP, a not-for-profit lifelong learning center in Athens, managing EU and national projects and developing educational tools and practices in a variety of fields. Before that, from 2003, she was working in the field of immigration for the NGO Nostos, implementing a variety of national and EU projects focusing on integration. Lilika, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. So in this context of the symposium talking about diversity and inequality, I'm looking at inequality mostly as who has the right to use the space in a city. And in this context, I will present a case study, which is, the so-called experiment of King Jason. King Jason used to be a hotel, and it was then turned into a facility for asylum seekers and refugees by NGO Nostos in the city of Athens, in the area of Metaxourgio. Now, in order to understand a bit where I'm coming from in this specific case study, firstly, it's important to understand that when we're talking about urban space, we're actually looking at Lefebvre's triad on how space is used by people, how space is understood by them, and of course, how space is designed by the authorities. In this context, we're looking at the notion of neighborhood, which it's slightly difficult to define, mostly because it's often confused with the concept of community, whereas what we want to look at here, it's the composition of a neighborhood through the physical and the social element, and mostly as a sum of the elements that compile it, and that is the people, the place, the common identities, the system of interactions, and public symbols. Now, the neighborhood that we're looking at is Metaxourgio. It is a district in the municipality of Athens. It is situated in the heart of the financial, cultural, and administrative center of the city and the country, and it's in the borderline of what it is considered to be the commercial triangle of Athens. This is a map, and where you see the black circle is Metaxourgio. I think you can see from this map the Syntagma and Plaka, which are the historical importance of the city. The red dot is the King Jason Hotel that we're going to discuss right now. This is the Hotel Jason, and as you can see, it's the red pin. Around it, there are many hotels and there are restaurants and bars in the area of Metaxourgio. King Jason was created in the 70s. It's a very big classical 70s structure. And during the financial crisis in Athens, it closed down. It is important to have in mind the location of the place because it became important for its creation as a shelter. So Nostos, which turned this hotel into a shelter, is an NGO founded in 1995 by Pontians Associations of Southern Greece, and it focuses on social support services towards integration. Since 2015, Nostos is an implementing partner of the UNHCR for housing and integration projects. Now, in this context, Nostos started operating King Jason as Xenia facility in May 2016, mostly as transit for beneficiaries, and by beneficiaries we mean asylum seekers and refugees, but I'm going to be using the term beneficiaries because it's the one used in the context of these projects that were candidates for the relocation project, that was the relocation to other EU member states. In 2018, the relocation project came to an end, so Xenia facility changed and became a shelter for difficult medical cases and very vulnerable populations. And now it was focusing mostly, or should I say only, to people who would be staying in Greece, so asylum seekers applying for asylum in Greece. The numbers of people who were hosted in Jason Hotel Xenia facility were 4,500 people, and it had a capacity of 352 persons, 24-hour services. It had an in-house kitchen and time of reaction for emergency requests, that is people coming to Xenia, it was up to 2 hours. Now, as you can see in this slide, there were multiple languages spoken. There were too many beneficiaries throughout each year, which I put it here because I want you to have all in mind the composition and the different ethnicities that were included in this shelter. And this is something that played a key importance in Nostos choosing this hotel, because Nostos chose the area and the specific hotel to create it into a facility for different reasons. The one reason was practical, and it was a hotel fully equipped, closed down, so it was relatively cheap and a good viable financial solution. It is located in a very central place that is being served by metro and train stations. It's very close to the metro station. Actually, it's a block away from it, and it's 5 minutes walking distance from Ammonia Square, which is also of importance because it has a high concentration of ethnic shops. Now, what the organization had in mind when choosing the neighborhood was that the operation of a shelter would be a positive influence in the neighborhood, and at the same time, it would be a very positive interaction for the beneficiaries as a means of integration in the city. Specifically, what they thought with operating the shelter in Metaxourgio was that with the lights on and with the people coming and going 24/7, that it would attract people, that the municipal authorities would take care of the place, for example, with regular cleaning of the pavements, with good lights during the night, and this way life would come back to the neighborhood, and at the same time, it would be a very good introduction for the beneficiaries to the city of Athens. Now, to do that, to facilitate this process, they created a series of integration activities attempting mostly to integrate in the neighborhood. So, first of all, what they did a creation of a herb garden on the rooftop of the Xenia facility for everyone to have access to, and attempted to create a network with the surrounding shops, mostly the restaurants, so they could use this herb garden as well for their everyday operation. At the same time, upon entering the shelter, beneficiaries were given maps and instructions to the surrounding area, mostly targeting for them to use the public places of Metaxourgio and mostly playgrounds and squares. Additionally, they had a collaboration with the Department of Architecture from the University of Manchester, and they presented together sustainable and financially viable interventions in the neighborhood that would be centered around Xenia beneficiaries. At the same time, what is happening in Metaxourgio? Metaxourgio, first of all, since the 90s, has a large number of migrants coming in and settling in the area. In 2012, immigrants from third countries make up 30% of the population in the area, making Metaxourgio into a multicultural neighborhood. At the same time, there are attempts at gentrification of Metaxourgio. Primary example is, and it's right next to the King Jason Hotel, so the Xenia facility, is the art gallery of Rebecca Kamhi, which is an avant-garde art gallery in Athens. Next to it is a theater. In the street below it is the main offices of Syriza, the previous government. A block further away from the hotel, it's a very large number of bars, cafes, restaurants, boutique hotels, and other high-end activities. At the same time, though, between the block where the high-end shops are and Xenia, we have a large concentration of substance users. We have abandoned buildings and plots that are turned into dumps, and we have a large number of brothels. And this is a very interesting composition if you think about it. Here are some pictures, so you can have an image of what the area is. So it's a composition of different elements, which was also a reason why it was thought to be a good place for the Xenia facility to be created. Now, my main concern was to look at the interaction between Xenia's beneficiaries and the neighborhood. And the results were very different from the ones expected from the organization. So the beneficiaries, especially women and children, were afraid to walk around by themselves. It was very obvious that with the exception of excursions escorted by employees, they were not circulating in the area and they did not want to go and use the public places around Xenia and in the area of Metaxurio in general. They didn't use the ethnic shops that are abandoned in the area, but they didn't also use the Greek ones. The obvious disrespect of the public space, which is, I mean, in the specific place, it's kind of manifested by everyone. So, for example, people would just throw the trash and no one is trying to keep it clean. So overall, the beneficiaries of Xenia felt very embarrassed living in this neighborhood, and they believed that their placement there was a sign of inferior treatment and actually like they were not be taken care of. So what we had was a neighborhood that did not really want them, but at the same time, they didn't want to be part of this neighborhood as well. So there are questions there whether this can be really seen as a neighborhood or not. Concluding, and this is the main thing here, when we're discussing about diversity and we're discussing about integration and inequalities, it's very important to see what are the elements into play in order for these things to take place in a harmonious way. So what we've seen in the case of Xenia facility is that the users, we have like two different groups of users. We have Greeks visiting the bars and the restaurants and the boutique hotels who did not want to be part of the block before that, so they didn't want to even park around the hotel to go on foot to the restaurants. We have the beneficiaries of Xenia who don't feel like using the place. At the same time, we have the authorities who are not really taking care of the area to feel more comfortable for people. And in the popular imagination, there are made different conflicting images of the area. So concluding, we had gentrification attempts of the area through investment on cultural and commercial activities. At the same time, we have large numbers of immigrants in the area who do not interact with these cultural and commercial activities, but invest in ethnic shops that are, I'm tempted to use the word segregated, but I would just say isolated. And on top of that, we have hundreds of asylum seekers and refugees who use the place as temporary accommodation and nothing more. So coming back to the beginning, the indications that at least I had during this specific case study was that there was no real interaction between these groups, and thus there were extreme feelings of misplacement for everyone. So, you know, this notion of who is using the space, how, and what does diversity mean and how is achieved in the city was not really the best example in this case. So thank you all for your attention.
Dr. Katrikalinu, this presentation also highlighted the existence of invisible social borders and the patterns of segregation in the city of Athens, in the downtown area. It also pointed to the fact that despite intentions and well-meant sometimes initiatives towards integration, these initiatives are not necessarily always successful. So the fourth speaker, and the last speaker of the panel is Mr. Christos Alefantis, founder of Schedia Street Paper. Mr. Alefantis is a journalist with more than 30 years experience. He's the editor-in-chief of Schedia, Greece's only street paper, which was launched in March 2013. Schedia, as all street newspapers worldwide, is a social enterprise and self-help model that provide an innovative solution to urban homelessness and unemployment. Mr. Alefantis.
Good evening.
Do we have a connection problem?
I can hear you very well.
Hello.
Hello.
We can.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really great. It's a great honor to be here with you and to be able to share our work, our vision, and how we try to be socially useful in a sustainable way. Actually, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the magazine, street paper, Schedia. I will say a few words about Schedia first. Schedia is a street paper. What sets it apart from other publications and monthly magazines or daily newspapers is that it is not sold through the usual outlets like a news agency or a peripheral, I would say in Greece. It is sold exclusively down the streets of Athens and Thessaloniki, in our case, by people like all of us, like you and me, but they are much, much poorer than us. They are homeless people, long-term unemployed, people who experience poverty and social exclusion at its extremity. What happens with Schedia as a street paper and all street papers around the world is that through the cover price, which is in the case of Greece is €4, the majority of this income goes straight to the vendors, to the people who sell the magazine. So really what Schedia does is about providing an opportunity to people who have no other ways, in a dignified way, through doing work essentially, and not through begging, to have an income to cover some of the most basic needs. But I think most importantly, and it's not me saying this, it's the people, the vendors themselves, Schedia is a social process that connects people. If you speak to a homeless vendor, or if you check the stories that we publish on our website, schedia.gr, you will see, and you will confirm in your hearts and in your minds what they say too, that the worst part about poverty is not that I don't have any money, it's the social exclusion part, is how people feel and become invisible. So Schedia street paper is a process that makes the invisible visible again, and we are very, very happy to be able to do this over the last 8 years or so that Schedia has been hitting the streets of Athens and Thessaloniki. Now, from Schedia, I will try, if I can remember correctly, to move on to a video that I want to my presentation, which I'm not sure how I can do this. Okay, maybe I will ask for your assistance. Okay. Now, Schedia, and actually I know it is standard practice in the print media industry, whether this is Schedia street paper or Madame Figaro or New Yorker or Spiegel magazine, any unsold copies to be sent directly to be recycled. Since Schedia hit the streets of Athens 8 years ago, we did not send a single copy of our unsold copies, unsold Schedias to be recycled. We held on to them in a little storage area, in the Metaxurgio area actually, and 4.5 years ago, we invited homeless vendors to participate in free upcycling workshops without promising anything to them. What you see here on your left-hand side is the first ever issue of Schedia magazine going back to March 2013. What you see on your right-hand side, it's exactly the same paper, the same magazine, only this time it has been transformed into a beautiful lampshade. Actually, this is our Schedia Σχεδία art project, upcycling project. It's a social and environmental project which actually energizes, empowers, trains people to new skills and provides true job opportunities. What you see on this picture too is more σχεδία art items, just like you see them here. And actually I think this is maybe the ideal time to show a little short video to you.
Η σχεδία κυκλοφορεί σε περιοδικό δρόμο. Αλλά και στο φωτιστικό. Βαγονιέρα. Σκουλαρίκια. Μολύβι. Καλάθι. Ακόμα και σε βρυλέ. Σχεδία μοναδικά, χειροποίητα, χρηστικά αντικείμενα υψηλής αισθητικής και ποιότητας φτιάχνουν με πολύ αγάπη από το επαναχρησιμοποιημένο καρπί του περιοδικού δρόμου σχεδία από πιο ευάλωτους συνανθρώπους μας. Ανακαλύψτε όλα. Κολοκοτρώνει 56 Αθήνα στην ιστοσελίδα σχεδία.gr και σε επιλεγμένα καταστήματα. Κοινωνικό και περιβαλλοντικό πρόγραμμα σχεδία ξαναφτιάχνοντας τη ζωή. Η σχεδία.
Okay. This is the title that we've given to our Σχεδία Art Upcycling project, Ξαναφτιάχνοντας τη ζωή, Restarting Life. This is actually the first 5 people that were trained to transform what to many people may seem or feel like trash, you know, an old magazine, into beautiful items, as I said, from lampshades to a set of earrings. And I think this is quite an interesting little stat there. Now, it's recycling versus upcycling. So, for 1 ton of magazines, a recycling company used to offer us 50 euros to take them to Asproprios so that they can be recycled. Now, 1 ton of paper for us is 5,000 copies of Σχεδία. With these 5,000 copies, we can actually produce, as you can see on your right-hand side, perhaps 600,000 sets of earrings, or 150,000 pencils, or over 3,000 posters. So, as you can see, the social, environmental, as well as economic benefits are quite clear, very, very distinct, and it is obviously our target to fill the market that everyone wears Σχεδία art earrings along the way. This is Theodoros Kolokotronis, one of the leaders of the Greek Revolution, Epanastasi. And this is an amazing heritage building in Kolokotronis Street. That photo dates back to 1890. This is our solidarity. This is where our solidarity and applied social innovation hub is. This is how we found it a couple of years ago. This is how it is today. Σχεδία Home, it's called. You can check us online. So when we felt ready with that, we had the great range of products to hit the market. We started looking for a place to develop, to establish exactly this, an applied social innovation hub, which would entail our workshops, our offices, our showroom, and our retail, so for our Σχεδία items, because that's the project. People make them, we sell them, and they have a salary, they have a job. Along the way, we thought, hold on, if you go to an art shop or to a museum, because this is also art, don't they usually have a little small snack cafe area for a coffee, a drink, or a snack? Yes. So we thought, okay, let's set up also along our workshops a small snack cafe area. But as it happened, we went to this great man, Lefteris Lazarou, which I feel is a Michelin star chef, one of the country's leading chefs, and we asked him to help us set up this little cafe bar. Mr. Lazarou, not only did he provide us with the menu and his ideas, but he also trained more people to work in the kitchen and deliver his amazing dishes. Who are these people? For someone to work in our kitchen, we had 3 criteria. to be over 50 years old. I mean, we do have a soft spot for people over 50 because, as you probably all understand, if you are 50 in this part of the world, very young actually, I'm 55, and you lose your job, it's pretty much impossible to rejoin the workforce. So we had A, this criteria, B, to have boiled an egg in their lifetime, and C, desire to work. And out of a boiled egg, some people were trained to deliver top quality dishes that have Mr. Lazarus' signature and now have a full-time employment position in our kitchen. So I can talk for days. I'm sure you're not going to do this. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to welcoming you all to Schevia home when all this is behind us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alefantis, for presenting the initiatives and special programs to support and train homeless people, very innovative and very environmentally sensitive, in very environmentally sensitive ways. Now, we have 10 minutes for the Q&A session, and I have already received some questions. So the first one is for Professor Maloutas. The question is, where in the vicious cycle should Athens intervene to break this cycle? Where? In what stage, apparently?
A difficult question because it's mainly for politicians, not for researchers. What I would say is that if the question is about Athens and where Athens could intervene, unfortunately, in this broad circle that I defined, Athens and local authorities in general in Greece do not have neither the responsibilities nor the resources to address such fundamental problems. They can do many things, important things like Mrs. Everett has described, but they cannot have a comprehensive confrontation with such systemic problems. On the other hand, on a broader level, on a government, central government level, you may have more resources to address these problems, but you don't have a consensus that what I expressed is a partisan political view. It's not a common understanding of the social reality of cities and of Athens in particular. Of course, the fact that UN's understanding of sustainable futures is related to increasing equality means that we are not where we were 20 or 30 years ago, and that more and more people are backing policies that would reduce inequalities. So my answer was not straight. It was a little bit beating around the bush, but I think I said the main thing that I could say.
Okay, I have another question here. I guess this is for Dr. Katrikalinu. It says, how can we make people feel more integrated and part of the neighborhood?
That's a very good question. I think we can stay here and speak for like 3 days, non-stop. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know where to start. So for one thing, I mean, I would just say the first thing that comes to my mind. The first thing is that we as a society, but also as I'm referring to the authorities mostly. We have to unveil the invisibility, the institutional invisibility of these people, which I think is also very closely related to homeless people. So the first thing to do about these populations is to recognize them, and not only to recognize them, we as citizens, which we have to, but also the authorities. So we have to take a very good look at how people can participate in the social fabric of the city, institutionally, and in the private life, obviously. And I really think that this is the very first step. So the authorities recognizing the populations, the specific groups, so as for them not to be invisible anymore in this context. Now, from that point on, I think it's like a larger discussion on the city and how well it functions and what are the necessary steps to make a city viable and sustainable. I think I'm also not answering the question very well, but I'm just trying to hint at specific things that would be very important.
There's another, I guess it's a question that can be addressed by other speakers as well. The next question I have here, which is an open question to all, is how, sorry, I think I lost track of the questions here. I was reading something else. We have understood that Athens is amazingly diverse. What about inclusivity? How can Athens increase its inclusivity socially and culturally? I think it's the flip side of the previous one. How can we increase inclusivity socially and culturally?
Okay, if I can just say very quickly, it's about really connecting people and bridging gaps and making people understand. I mean, I think one of, and I can talk from out of our personal experience, I think what's very, very important with Schedia about inclusivity is that it connects people. It connects the homeless vendor with the person who walks out of the metro. And, you know, and they see each other and they talk and they communicate and they start to understand each other. And the supporter, buyer, reader, you know, gradually he starts or she starts to understand that, hey, this guy could be me, you know, it's us, it's about us. It's not about someone else. So I think it's about connecting people, very, very important, to put it very, very simply, in my opinion.
And also, if I may add, especially we have the Schedia example right here, inclusion in terms of the job market. So if you one way to break this cycle of inequality and to then talk about inclusivity even more is, you know, for people to get out of poverty and have proper job and be able to participate in social life in full. And that goes for all different groups.
May I add something, please, when you have completed?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. Evert.
Yeah, I believe one of the most important issues of integration for immigrants and for refugees is learning the language of the country they live in. It's of utmost importance. It's the A and Z for them to manage slowly to integrate and feel freer in the country they live. I believe that the migrant children's and the refugee children's attend school, but these programs, Greek schools, these programs, even at the Ammonia Square that I mentioned, the camp for the refugee seeking asylum, they have schools there, and at the age of 6, they attend. When I was again vice mayor, deputy mayor of social solidarity back in 2006 to 2010, we had implemented this most successful program. We named it Imamama Thenilenika, Mommy Learns Greek. It was an afternoon program. It took place in the nursery homes, in the nursery schools, actually, near the nursery stations. There were approximately 20, when the mothers of the children that attended the school, of the migrants, attended and learned for over a year and a half the language. So they were partly able to communicate with the society. They were able to kind of follow their children in the course of their lessons because they were learning Greek simultaneously, especially the young kids. And I guess this is what I believe most important. And also I believe that they should adopt, that the refugees that intend to stay here in Greece have to learn and adapt to the customs of the country they live in. Not, in Greece specifically, because we're talking about Athens, we're talking about Greece, but in every country that they live in. That's how people get closer, you know. And also Greeks start becoming familiar to other cultures of other countries, you know. I guess that's what I don't have something else to add.
Unless somebody wants to add something on the previous question, there is one last question which involves the Xenia project and how can it become more successful. What strategy, in other words, can be used towards integration. And we need to wrap up after this because we have one more session to go.
So, Professor Maloutas?
Professor Maloutas, if you're trying to talk, we cannot hear you.
I was trying to talk with a mute microphone,
okay.
And it's a problem. I would like to connect this question with the previous one. The Xenia project, or particular projects that are related to housing in Athens with refugee needs and all that. They are very specific and very punctual. I would address in this case the need of a larger intervention in terms of housing, because there are many vulnerable groups apart from those who are at the focus at the bottom, let's say, of the hierarchy of means that they can use to be in a settlement that is acceptable. And if COVID did not interrupt a process that was going on, a very large section of migrants and other low means groups in Athens would be at very big peril through the Airbnb proliferation and all that, which has strained very much the rental market. So it's not only about very individual and localized and small projects, but we need broader policies that can address the issues faced by larger groups in need of decent housing. Sorry, I took a long time to address.
can I just say something on that?
Yeah, I would say a final comment from each one before we close the Q&A session would be good.
So for specifically the Xenia project, of course, it would need larger interventions, but that would mean that it needs the state to intervene in a meaningful way for the whole spectrum of migration. That's one thing. That was an example of an integration outlook that a specific organization took within the specific context of the Estia project. Now, going beyond that, if the question is again on what can we do to integrate different people and different groups, when we're talking about asylum seekers and refugees, again, I would go back to proper inclusion and proper integration through means of education, training, being able to be introduced or reintroduced in the labor market. And I agree that this goes to all groups who are under the same situation, and it's not just for the refugees. The difference for the refugees and the migrants is that we also need to take special attention into their training, of course, in language and vocational training, and giving them access to the mainstream society. And I think I can close with that. By the way, thank you all for being in this discussion.
Mr. Alefantis, a final comment?
Okay, I think we are all quite familiar of the challenges that are ahead, but our experience is that there are many great organizations out there, great people. You know, there's the will and desire, but many people to do the right thing. And I think our world is going to be a much better place, much sooner than many people may think. That's it.
Mrs. Everett, a final note.
I would thank you all very much. It was a pleasure discussing with you a very interesting panel. And as Mrs. Alefantis said, I believe in joint efforts. I believe that joining our efforts and is the best way to face these challenges. The challenges will never stop. And as I mentioned in my speech earlier, it was due to the economic crisis. The beginning now, the pandemic is going to really the έκφραση is going to really, lay us down, and we'll have a long way in front of us. But there's so many interesting people and knowledgeable people that, put all their love and force in towards the same direction, that I believe that if we join these efforts, we will achieve much more. Not only with the NGOs, individuals, the government, everybody. The EU needs to help. That's it. Thank you very much.
And a closing comment from Professor Maloutas to finish with the session. We can hear you now, I think.
Just one word. The problems are very big, increasing, but since there are people who want to do things, and there are more and more people who want to do things, one can be optimistic.
Thank you very much all for participating, for accepting the invitation to participate in this session and helping us to understand from different perspectives the issue of inequalities and the challenges in the city of Athens. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are moving now to the second session and last session for the day. This is a video presentation, actually a presentation of two videos, which focus on the makeshift places of worship of immigrants in Athens, in the greater Athens area. These video presentations, they are two. It starts with an interview of the acclaimed photographer Tassos Vretos, and whose photographic project was presented at the Benaki Museum a couple of years ago. And it's a very interesting project on the places of worship, as I said before. This will be the second video that will follow. Thank you all. And we're waiting to see you again. See you tomorrow after the presentation of the videos.
Τον κύριο Τάσο Βρετό, έναν από τους πιο αναγνωρισμένους φωτογράφους της Ελλάδας, ο οποίος έκανε πριν λίγα χρόνια μια φωτογραφική έρευνα και έκθεση στο Μουσείο Μπενάκη, φωτογραφίζοντας τους αυτοσχέδιους χώρους λατρείας των μεταναστών και προσφύγων της Αθήνας. Για αρχή, τι σας παρακίνησε να ξεκινήσετε το project αυτό?
Δεν υπήρχε ιδέα για ένα γενικότερο project, υπήρξε μια περιέργεια η οποία με οδήγησε μια ανάσταση πριν από 7-8 χρόνια σε έναν υπέροχο ναό, όπου ήταν μια πραγματικά μοναδική εμπειρία και ουσιαστικά ήταν το άνοιγμα μιας πόρτας, μιας υπέροχης διαδρομής για πολλά χρόνια, που αυτός ο ναός ακολούθησαν και πολλοί άλλοι, διαφορετικές θρησκείες, διαφορετικοί κόσμοι και πολιτισμοί. Και ήταν ένα υπέροχο ταξίδι, το οποίο ολοκληρώθηκε με μια μεγάλη έκθεση στο Μουσείο Μπενάκη, η οποία πέρα από την εικαστική της αξία, για μένα το σημαντικότερο προϊόν αυτής της έκθεσης ήταν η ανθρωπολογική της δύναμη και ο τρόπος με τον οποίο ανθρωπολογικά πια λειτουργήσε και όχι μόνο εικαστικά. Και το πιο σημαντικό απ' όλα είναι η σχέση που δημιούργησα με αυτές τις κοινότητες, η οποία είναι μια σχέση ζωής και είναι κάτι το οποίο ακόμα συνεχίζεται. Δηλαδή, ακόμα καλούμε σε γιορτές, καλούμε σε βαφτίσια, καλούμε σε γάμους, όσο πολύ καλός τους φίλους.
Πολύ όμορφο. Αν με επιτρέπετε, θέλω να σας ρωτήσω τι ανταπόκριση είχατε από τους ανθρώπους που προσεγγίσατε για να ξεκινήσετε αυτό το...
Η αποδοχή ήταν σχεδόν θετική από όλες τις εκκλησίες. Υπήρξαν μερικές μεμονωμένες περιπτώσεις ανθρώπων που ήταν διστακτικοί και επιφυλακτικοί, πράγμα απόλυτα κατανόητο. Αλλά επί συνόλου ήταν όχι απλώς δεκτικοί. Πολλοί από αυτούς θέλαν πάρα πολύ να κοινωνήσουν την εμπειρία της προσευχής τους και σε εμάς. Και ήταν χαρά τους να έχουν Έλληνες στο κοινό το εκκλησιαστικό τους.
Πώς αντιμετωπίζουν οι επισκέπτες της έκθεσης το θέμα?
Είχα καλέσει και πολύ κόσμο από τους ναούς που με τίμησαν με την παρουσία τους. Χαρακτηριστικά ήταν στο τέλος της έκθεσης, είχα ζητήσει από τους ναούς να τραγουδήσουν τα θρησκευτικά τους τραγούδια και έγινε μια συνάντηση διαφόρων εκκλησιών και εθνικοτήτων και πολιτισμών στον χώρο του Μουσείου Μπενάκη, όπου η κάθε εκκλησία τραγούδισε ή έψαλε τα δικά τους τραγούδια. Ήταν πραγματικά ένα συγκλονιστικό βράδυ. Αλλά το πιο σημαντικό απ' όλα είναι ότι η συγκίνηση που δημιουργήθηκε στη συνάντηση ημών και αυτών κατά τη διάρκεια της έκθεσης ήταν μοναδική. Και ήταν κάτι το οποίο περιγράφαν οι φύλακες του Μπενακίου, ότι πρώτη φορά σε έκθεση στο Μουσείο Μπενάκη είδαν επισκέπτες να κλαίνε βλέποντας έκθεση. Δεν κομπάζω για την δυνότητά μου τη φωτογραφική. Απλώς καμαρώνω και είμαι πολύ περήφανος που ενδεχομένως χωρίς να το θέλω, γιατί η πρόθεσή μου ήταν μια φωτογραφική καταγραφή, δημιουργήθηκε όλη αυτή η αποκάλυψη αυτών στα μάτια τα δικά μας. Τη λέξη που μου λέγανε συνεχώς οι διάφορες εκκλησίες, ότι μας έδειξες έξω. Ήταν σαν να σήκωσε ένα χαλί της πόλης, ας πούμε, και να έδειξε όλο αυτό τον κόσμο των πιστών και της προσευχής τους σε εμάς. Αυτό τουλάχιστον μου έδωσαν την τιμή και τη χαρά να νιώσω ότι έπραξα, επαναλαμβάνω, χωρίς να το θέλω, μέσα από αυτή τη διαδικασία.
Εσείς ο ίδιος πρωτού ξεκινήσετε με αυτό το έργο, τι εικόνα είχατε για την θρησκευτική πολυμορφία της Αθήνας?
Είχα μια πολύ πολύ μικρότερη εικόνα από αυτήν την οποία συνάντησα. Δηλαδή, συνάντησα, ας πούμε, Ιρακινούς χριστιανούς, Ιρανούς χριστιανούς. Συνάντησα διαφορετικές θρησκευτικές αποχρώσεις των Ινδών, τους Δραβιντάς, τους Σιχ, τους Ινδουιστές. Δεν είχα ιδέα ότι υπάρχουν τόσες εκκλησίες και τόσες διαφορετικές θρησκείες συγκεντρωμένες μέσα στην πόλη.
Ήθελα επίσης να σας ρωτήσω πώς εσείς ο ίδιος βιώσατε την είσοδό σας σε μια κρυφή Αθήνα.
Ήταν ουσιαστικά σαν να έμπαινα σε ένα άβατο. Το άβατο αντιμετωπίζει κανείς με ένα δέος, με ένα φόβο, με μια τρομερή περιέργεια και σαφώς σαν εμπειρία, αυτή η εμπειρία ενός χώρου που ανοίγει μια πόρτα κάπου στην Κυψέλη και ξαφνικά εκτοξεύεσαι κάπου σε κάποιο μέρος της Νιγηρίας, είναι συγκλονιστικό. Δηλαδή, ανοίγεις μια πόρτα και έμπαινε σε ένα γλέντι από gospel μουσικές, με τρομερές μπάντες και με ανθρώπους ντυμένους με τα γιορτινά τους ρούχα να ξεσαλώνουν χορεύοντας, προσευχόμενοι, φτάνοντας και σε σημεία έκσταση πολλές φορές.
Θεωρείτε ότι άλλαξε όλο αυτό τον τρόπο που βιώνετε εσείς την πίστη στη ζωή σας?
Ναι, αλήθεια είναι. Βλέποντας τόσους πολλούς ανθρώπους από όλο τον κόσμο, από διαφορετικές θρησκείες και πολιτισμούς και κουλτούρες, τον τρόπο με τον οποίο πολύ γενναιόδωρα πίστευαν και πιστεύουν, από πολύ ακραία μέχρι πολύ σιωπηλά ενδεχομένως, επανεξέτασα και εγώ τι σημαίνει πίστη μέσα μου. Δηλαδή είναι κάτι το οποίο αλήθεια μου έβαλε τροφοδοτήσω το μυαλό μου και τη σχέση μου με την πίστη με ένα διαφορετικό τρόπο.
Υπάρχει κάτι άλλο που θα θέλετε να αναφέρουμε ή κάτι άλλο που ήταν αξιοσημείωτο πέρα από όλη αυτή την εμπειρία που μοιραστήκατε μαζί μας εννοείται και που είδαμε και εμείς από τις φωτογραφίες σας?
Αυτό που σας προτρέπω είναι να μπορέσετε να έχετε μια εμπειρία έστω από κάποιον από αυτούς τους ναούς στους οποίους επισκέφτηκα. Οι χώροι είναι, οι πιο πολλοί από αυτούς τους χώρους είναι ανοιχτοί. Οι άνθρωποι αυτοί πραγματικά θέλουν πάρα πολύ να τους δούμε. Επαναλαμβάνω, ξεπέρασε το φωτογραφικό με ενδιαφέρον και για μένα έγινε πια ανθρωπολογικό και κοινωνιολογικό το ενδιαφέρον όλο αυτό το δικορικό. Πράγμα το οποίο αγγίζει νομίζω τον οποιοδήποτε άνθρωπο σήμερα.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Εγώ να είστε καλά. Καλή επιτυχία σε ό,τι κάνετε.